What's up, guys? This is Kephas. So, I'm going to be completely honest as I wait for patch 8.3 to release and also, Shadowlands down the road this year. I haven't really been playing a lot of WoW lately, aside from making the macros and leveling these characters, and that also applies to Classic. I haven't really been playing a lot of Classic lately, and that's partially because of real life, the holidays, the family, and everything like that, but also because there are just other games that have taken my attention, and I was into Pokemon for a while. I still play Overwatch. I've talked about that from time to time. And, I don't want that to bother anybody. I'm just being completely honest. It doesn't mean I don't love WoW. It doesn't mean that there won't come a time in the future where I won't want to play it again all the time. But it does make things challenging being a guy who makes YouTube videos whose audience mostly enjoys WoW videos. So I'm not going to stop making those videos. At the same time, it's one of those things where it's always been this way with me in WoW. I used to play it all the time back in Wrath. We were reflecting on that a couple episodes ago. But I've always taken breaks from the game. The problem for me nowadays is that I take more breaks, and those breaks tend to last a lot longer than they used to. And I'm not going to lie, it's not because I don't enjoy MMOs. It's not because I don't love WoW. It's just because I don't like the game where it is right now, and it doesn't stick with me long term like it used to. I really don't enjoy the game as it currently is. I'm hoping 8.3 will add some things that will be fun, just like 8.2 did. I enjoyed the new content that came out in 8.2, Mechagon, and I even made a video on it. But of course, it's not going to last very long. But the game as a whole, it's ready for something new, Hopefully, things will improve in this game. And look, if you like the game the way it is, that's fine, you're allowed to, but I'm not going to keep my opinion quiet just because it doesn't line up with yours. If you don't like my opinion, tough. It's my opinion, it's how I feel. I'm not going to change the way I feel. And of course, it's obviously I don't hate the game. I'm playing it right now. I'm still making videos for it. But, it doesn't stick with me as long as it used to, and I'm hoping that will change in the future. But at the same time, I'm finding enjoyment in a lot of other games. That's why I do other videos. We're doing we finished a link to the past, and now we're playing Ocarina of Time. I'm going to be continuing to do stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not going to be making macros forever, so I'm going to honestly try to delve into some other games on here and see how it goes. And the thing is, I'm never going to not play games I enjoy just because of YouTube or whatever. I'm always going to be playing games I enjoy and making videos for them, and that's always going to have some WoW in there. There's always going to be a place for WoW on this channel because it's always going to be adding new things. There's always going to be things to do, and there's always going to be new macros to make because sooner or later they're going to be making changes to classes. And of course, there's also the WoW Classic macros, which God knows when those are going to come because it's tough to level up characters in that game, especially when there are other games that I want to play, and that's partially the problem. It's not only that Classic take a long time, but also because there are a lot of other games that I want to play, and one of those games. I'm going to be talking about another MMO in this episode. I apologize, but I don't apologize because it's what I'm playing. I've really gotten into Final Fantasy XIV again, and this time, unlike the previous times where I'd play it for a while, I'd play it for a couple weeks or a month or so, and then I would go back to playing something else. It's actually really hooked me this time. Legitimately, I'm further than I've ever been. I'm getting close to the end of the game. I've gotten Shadowbringers, which is the latest expansion, and I'm really into the game. And it's, of course, I'm going to compare it to WoW. And I think that, I look at videos online, there are a lot of WoW refugees, as they say. A lot of people have jumped over to Final Fantasy XIV. I don't think I'm ever going to stop playing WoW. Fortunately, I can pay for WoW with WoW tokens, so, that's fine. So I can have two MMOs, but it is hard to play two MMOs, full-time at once. And right now, Final Fantasy XIV has got my attention. So, hey, WoW's not going anywhere. If you'd like to see some Final Fantasy 14 content, by all means, let me know in the comments below, and I'll make some videos and give me some ideas. Because I'm still learning the game, and there's so much about the game I don't know. I'm very ignorant of a lot of the stuff in the game, because the game, my God, there is so much to that game, and that's one of the first things about Final Fantasy 14 and WoW that I noticed. WoW is very much an arcadey kind of game now. It's kind of stripped down to a straightforward experience. You level up, you get gear, you raid, you can do mythic dungeons, and there's dailies. And that's it. You log into Final Fantasy 14, and there is so much going on that, you unlock, one of the things about the game that I like is that as you go through the game, you unlock parts of the game by doing quests and whatnot. It's not like, okay, you can do this at level 10. It's no. For example, if you want to mount, you could be level 50, but if you don't do the quest, you're not going to be able to ride a mount. So you have to do these quests to unlock mounts, and then you'll do a quest to unlock flying mounts much later in the game, and then to fly in areas, you have to go through and find all these aether currents to unlock flying in that area, which is, by the way, that's how you handle flying. If you want to know, the system that Final Fantasy 14 has, where you go through and you unlock flying in each area by exploring the zone and finding these aether currents and doing some quests, and then you have flying forever. That's how you do it. The way that WoW does it is nowhere near as good, in my opinion, as the way Final Fantasy does it. And honestly, I can say that about a lot of things when it comes to Final Fantasy 14. There's a reason why Final Fantasy 14 is getting a lot of attention nowadays. And I think that a lot of people underestimate it. You may not see it at the top of Twitch like you do WoW. That has a lot more to do with the content creator than the actual game, I'm sorry to say. But Final Fantasy 14 is right up there, and it might even be bigger now than WoW. And, I mean, not that this means anything, but there's a reason why Final Fantasy 14 was a nominee on the Game Awards for being the best ongoing game, which I think got robbed. Fortnite, give me a break. I think that a lot of people who are in the WoW bubble just don't understand. What's the term? I'm trying to think of the term. They just, I can't think of what it, underestimate. There's the word. That's not even a hard word. I was trying to say underestimate, which is not right. I think a lot of WoW people who are deep in the WoW bubble underestimate how big Final Fantasy 14 is. And maybe they don't care. That's fine. If you don't care, that's fine. You like WoW, it's whatever. As someone who likes both, it's interesting for me to compare the two. And there are things about WoW that I like better. I like character designs better in WoW. I like the world better in WoW, but I like a lot of the stuff in Final Fantasy as well. And, there are other things, I like that WoW has mods, and Final Fantasy 14 is very strict about not having mods. But then there are things like just the overall gameplay, combat, and the abilities, the many ways that you can level up, the many things that you can unlock. You join a what's called a grand company, which is kind of like being a part of the Alliance or Horde, but not exactly, because you can still group up with people from different grand companies. But you rank up in the grand company, and then you can recruit NPC squads, and then you can go on dungeon runs with the squads. It doesn't replace having to do dungeon runs with other players, because to progress in the game, you're still going to have to run dungeons that you can't run with your squads, but you can do these squad runs, and it's like a fast way to level up for your alts, which, by the way, are all on one character, because your character can switch to a different class, or what's called jobs, in that game at any time. The game has player housing. You can build a house. You can pick an address in the world. Well, it's like in an instance version of the world, with other houses next to you and all that kind of stuff. So, like, there's a lot that you can do in the game. One of the biggest things, this is something that I think that WoW could really use some reinvention for. I was talking about that a couple episodes ago, about how WoW could really afford to reinvent itself a little bit. And it doesn't have to be a copy of Final Fantasy XIV, but just in its own way, its own take. A lot of things that you do at lower levels can have an impact on what happens at higher levels to a certain degree. I mean, there are things like you're leveling up and you earn these seals, which you can spend on your Grand Company, Squadron, like all this kind of stuff that will help flush out the game for you. It's not just level up to the end and raid. I mean, you can do that if you want, but there's all this other stuff that you can do, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just been so much fun. I mean, the game has the duty finder, for example, but at the same time, it also has like a system where you can reward like someone at the end of the, like when you finish a dungeon or a raid, you vote for someone to give them like they were a good group member kind of thing. And honestly, because Final Fantasy XIV requires you to group up, you know, I went from being very nervous about it. It's actually part of why I quit in the past, because I just didn't want to do the dungeons. Now I'm looking forward to dungeon runs, which is crazy because like I can watch a quick video guide beforehand or not, because people in that game are nice. It's crazy how nice people are, how positive exchanges I've had with people where like I made some mistakes a few times and people were cool about it. Like, dude, it's fine. Like, you gotta learn sometime. Like, it's crazy how overwhelmingly positive that community is. I'm not saying that there aren't some bad apples here and there. I think I've had one slightly negative encounter since I've been playing, and I'm almost max level now. It's just amazing how like the little things they did with the duty finder have, you know, improved it. And also, like, to unlock dungeons in the duty finder, you have to go to the dungeon and unlock it. So you actually have to physically go to where it's at. Again, that's really awesome because that way you know the story of the dungeon, which also goes into like the game. Like, there's a storyline in the game. It's called a main scenario quest. And I'm not trying to like advertise it here. I'm sorry, I'm talking about another MMO while playing WoW. But it's just interesting to compare WoW to Final Fantasy XIV. And again, it's kind of like comparing retail WoW to Classic, and it really shows me how bare bones, in my opinion, modern WoW is. Like, if you feel like Classic WoW is too old school, maybe too hardcore, but you feel like modern WoW is maybe a bit too easy, too stripped down, and too bare bones, I would recommend that you give Final Fantasy XIV a try. Because it's kind of like the in-between. You know, it's got its challenges. There's a lot of time investment involved if you want to experience everything that the game has to offer, but at the same time, it makes a lot of those things streamlined, but not in the way that it, in my opinion, it takes away too much from the game. I do wish the game had mods. That's one thing that WoW has. And I appreciate WoW's art style a lot more. Of course, Final Fantasy XIV is running on a much older engine. It could probably use its own update, kind of like WoW has. But I like all the races in WoW. I like the world. But a lot of the other things are pretty comparable. Monsters in Final Fantasy, obviously, they've got a many games worth of monsters to rely on. Also, Final Fantasy has Triple Triad, which is the card game from Final Fantasy VIII. I mean, there's so much in the game that it's just a really good MMO. Legitimately a good MMO. And like, if you want something different, I'm not going to lie. I recommend that you go check that out. Some people are going to be acting like I'm proselytizing or whatever it's called. Apostate? I forget what it's called. Where you try to... So what a religion thing where you try to get people to join a different religion from the religion they're in, or join a different church from the church they go to. It's not like that. Like, you can easily play both. I'm just saying that, you know, you've got a game like WoW. I was reflecting on where WoW is now versus where WoW was, you know, 10 years ago, having become much easier. And then I look at a game like Final Fantasy XIV, which is probably one of the best redemption stories in video games. Like, it is literally a phoenix. Like, the initial Final Fantasy XIV release was a massive failure, and then they came back with a Realm Reborn, and it's been nothing but going uphill ever since. I mean, they have just a rocket to their bootstraps, and it's crazy how successful that game is now. You know, of course, it also, like, another thing is, like, it has controller support. They released it on its own PS4. You play with PS4 people. who are also, you can play with PS4 and PC, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be releasing on Xbox. Meanwhile, you have snooty people in WoW who are like, I would never play with people on console. It's like Final Fantasy has 10 times the amount of buttons that WoW has. It's a much more challenging game in every way, and yet it's got console support. So get over yourself. Like, give me a break. And that's something else about the game. It's just a lot. Seems like a lot more pleasant in a lot of ways, but it's just crazy, just the advancements that game has made. And hopefully, what I'm saying isn't like, well, quit WoW and go play Final Fantasy 14. It's like, no, it's a good thing, because that's what WoW needs. That's what Final Fantasy needs, and they need competition. You know, you never want just there to be one thing, right? Like, you want, like, ideally, WoW comes back and makes an amazing expansion with Shadowlands, and it brings a breath of fresh air, and they go on an upturn of their own. Like, they start going up again. And Final Fantasy XIV continues with their momentum, and now you have these two MMOs that are competing with each other. And when you have competition, everybody wins. Because now the developers are working hard to make a good product to compete with the other product, and the fans of those products are reaping the benefits of having good products, and they're willing to pay for those products. In every instance, pretty much every instance, competition is a good thing. And that's something that I think WoW has needed for a very long time, and people may not realize it. And maybe they don't realize it. They do realize it, because they're always trying to do sneaky things to sabotage their competition, which has failed for the most part lately. But competition is a good thing, and I'm saying all this about Final Fantasy not to dump on WoW, not to get people to quit WoW. I'm just talking about it because it's on my mind. I'm enjoying the game, and I couldn't be happier to have another MMO that is as good, and in my opinion right now, might even be better than what World of Warcraft is, and what World of Warcraft has been for a very long time. So yeah, I mean, that's my opinion. I think competition is good. I want the best for both of these games, and I hope that we get some amazing MMO experiences again for the next 10 years and longer, because I think that MMOs are definitely one of the best potentialed game genres that exist that hasn't been fully tapped into yet. So I'm hoping that this competition, I hope it comes to be, and I hope it spurs these game companies, WoW and Final Fantasy, Square Enix and Blizzard, to make some amazing products for the future. That's my hope. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button, and feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and if you'd like, you can support this channel on Patreon. Links to all of this can be found in the description below. This is Kephas. Until next time.